What if I told you that the Vikings, known for their brutal conquests and warrior spirit, were also surprisingly clean? Even without soap, shampoo, or running water, these fierce Scandinavians had clever ways to stay fresh through icy winters, mud, and war. At a time when most of Europe barely understood hygiene, the Vikings made it part of their everyday life, enough to shock even their enemies. In this video, we're diving into the world of the Vikings to uncover the natural methods they used to care for their bodies and stay clean, all without modern technology. We'll explore cold river baths, steaming saunas, fragrant plants, and simple yet effective techniques that kept them ready for battle and for everyday life. You'll also see how hygiene for the Vikings was much more than just staying clean. It was deeply connected to health, spirituality, and even social status. And of course, we're going to break down the popular myth that Vikings were dirty and smelly, showing that they actually had their own ways of staying fresh, some of which might even surprise us today. So get ready for this journey through time, where we'll discover that staying clean has always been a challenge, and that nature already had plenty of answers long before soap was ever invented. To truly understand how the Vikings approached hygiene, we first need to get a sense of the world they lived in. The Vikings were Norse people who lived in the regions we now know as Denmark, Norway, and Sweden from the 8th to the 11th century. They were known not just as warriors and explorers, but also as farmers, craftsmen, and traders. Their environment was tough: long, harsh winters, short summers, and in many areas, rocky and barren soil. Clean water from natural springs and rivers was abundant, but they didn't have the comforts we take for granted today, like plumbing, commercial soap, or bathrooms. So their hygiene habits had to adapt to the natural world around them and to the rhythm of daily life. Taking care of the body and staying clean was important for the Vikings, not just for practical reasons like preventing disease, but also for social and spiritual ones. Being clean was a sign of self-respect and respect for others, and it was tied to honor, a deeply valued trait in Viking culture. After all, no one wanted to go into battle feeling dirty or unkempt. The Vikings also had beliefs and rituals that emphasized bodily purification, whether to prepare for important events or to maintain balance with nature and the gods. This shows that hygiene was closely linked to their spiritual life. With that context in mind, it becomes much easier to understand why they developed so many creative and natural ways to stay clean, even without soap or showers. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. Now that we understand the Vikings' environment and culture, we can start to see how they managed to stay clean without the modern products we use today. One of their main hygiene practices was bathing in natural water. Rivers, lakes, and springs served as their natural bathrooms. Even in Scandinavia's cold climate, the Vikings valued bathing. During the summer, it was common to bathe in rivers and lakes, taking advantage of the fresh water to wash away dirt and sweat. Even in winter, some tribes would take quick dips in icy waters, a habit they believed strengthened both body and mind, while also cleansing the skin. Interestingly, this tradition still exists in some Nordic cultures today, but it wasn't just cold water that helped them stay clean. The Vikings had a well-known tradition, the use of a sauna. These steam baths were heated with hot stones placed over burning wood, opening the pores and allowing the body to sweat out impurities. They didn't use saunas just to get clean. They also served as preparation for important events, relief from muscle pain, and, of course, a place to socialize, to deal with tougher grime, like mud and grease, which were common in their daily activities. The Vikings used natural exfoliation. They would scrub themselves with sand, rough stones, or pieces of tree bark to scrape off dirt and cleanse the skin. This exfoliation removed dead skin cells and allowed for deeper cleaning, even without soap. The rough texture of these materials worked almost like a natural scrub. Another essential resource was plants and herbs. The Vikings had a deep knowledge of the local flora and used herbs with antiseptic and aromatic properties to cleanse and scent their bodies. Plants like rosemary, lavender, and nettle were rubbed onto the skin or infused into bath water to eliminate odors and prevent infections. These plants also played a ritualistic role, often linked to spiritual purification. When it came to washing clothes, the Vikings didn't use soap as we know it, but they had their own effective methods to keep fabrics clean and odor-free. They often washed garments in running water, scrubbing them with fine sand or ash to remove dirt and grease. Ash, which is rich in potassium, had cleansing properties similar to natural soap and was surprisingly effective. It's worth noting that the frequency of Viking bathing and hygiene habits was higher than many people assume. Historical records suggest that, contrary to the stereotype of dirty, unkempt Vikings, they placed great importance on regular bathing, especially when compared to other European cultures of the time, which had more limited hygiene routines. All of this reveals that the Vikings had a complete set of natural and intelligent body care practices: water, steam, plants, and other elements of nature. This simple yet effective combination helped them stay clean, healthy, and ready for the challenges of everyday life. Beyond bathing and natural methods of removing dirt, the Vikings had specific routines for taking care of their hair, beards, skin, and nails, essential aspects of personal hygiene that reflected both health and social image. Hair and beards were important elements of Viking appearance. They didn't just keep them clean, they took pride in grooming and maintaining them. To do this, they used combs made from bone or wood, essential tools for detangling and straightening hair. These combs are often found in archaeological sites, showing just how much they valued this care. In addition to combing, they applied natural oils extracted from plants and seeds, like flaxseed oil, to moisturize and scent their hair and beards. Aromatic herbs were also used to prevent bad odors and create a fresh feeling. Beards, seen as symbols of strength and maturity, were carefully trimmed and cleaned, as personal appearance reflected a warrior's discipline and status. As for skincare, the Vikings used simple but effective techniques. In addition to the exfoliation mentioned earlier, they regularly trimmed their nails using small metal tools, or even their own teeth, to keep them short and clean, preventing the buildup of dirt and infections. Hand hygiene was especially important, as hands were constantly used to handle weapons, tools, and food. After battles or hard labor, when sweat and dirt accumulated, they had specific practices to refresh themselves and stay healthy. Quick baths, scrubbing the body with plants, and time in the sauna helped prevent infections and bad smells. This post-exertion hygiene was essential for keeping the body strong and ready for whatever came next. Interestingly, concern for hygiene went beyond just the physical. Taking care of one's body was also seen as an act of self-respect and respect for the community. Cleanliness was part of personal discipline, something that strengthened the spirit and enhanced one's image in the eyes of others. This daily attention to body care shows that the Vikings had a broad understanding of hygiene, one that involved not only staying clean, but also maintaining well-being and social harmony. They understood that even in harsh, rugged conditions, it was possible to follow a routine that balanced health, appearance, and even spirituality. For the Vikings, hygiene wasn't just a practical matter or a health concern. It carried deep social and cultural meaning. Being clean was a sign of self-respect, and also a way to show respect for others, something crucial in a society where honor and reputation were central values. In Norse groups, personal cleanliness often reflected a person's social status. Nobles and high-ranking warriors spent more time and resources on maintaining a polished appearance, using oils and aromatic herbs to scent their bodies and care for their hair and beards. For them, this reinforced an image of strength, discipline, and authority, a clear marker of prestige in the eyes of others. Farmers and laborers followed a more modest hygiene routine, adapted to the demands of heavy work and limited access to certain resources. Still, cleanliness was respected across all layers of Viking society, and neglecting it could raise suspicion or even lead to disrespect. Hygiene was also closely connected to Viking spirituality. Many religious rituals and ceremonies involved bodily purification, as they believed that a clean body brought them closer to the gods and helped maintain harmony with nature. Before battles or significant events, Vikings would cleanse themselves, strengthening not only their bodies, but also their spirits. Finally, hygiene played an essential role in community life. In those tightly knit societies where people lived in close quarters, personal care had a direct impact on daily life. Being clean helped prevent illness and kept the environment healthy, making cooperation among group members much easier. All of this shows that for the Vikings, hygiene was far more than a solitary act. It was a social practice that helped build trust, maintain respect, and preserve cultural traditions that supported both physical and mental well-being. When we think of Vikings, the image that often comes to mind is of rough warriors with messy appearances and no personal care. But that idea is more myth than reality. In truth, the Vikings were quite attentive to hygiene, perhaps even more so than other European societies of their time. For example, archaeological digs have uncovered an impressive number of combs and personal grooming tools, showing that appearance mattered to them. Historical records also suggest that Vikings bathed far more frequently than other medieval peoples, sometimes as often as once a week, which was rare in medieval Europe. Another interesting detail is their use of saunas, which not only helped with cleanliness, but also served as social and ritual spaces. In these saunas, they shared stories, strengthened bonds, and engaged in spiritual practices, proving that hygiene went well beyond the physical. And what about the smell? Despite their hard work and physical lifestyle, the Vikings used aromatic herbs and oils to keep themselves scented and to avoid unpleasant odors, debunking the idea that they were always foul-smelling. In the end, the belief that Vikings were dirty comes from stereotypes spread by rival cultures trying to devalue their enemies. In reality, the Vikings had remarkable personal care habits that reflected their values, their worldview, and their way of life. As we've seen, even without soap or showers, the Vikings found smart and natural ways to take care of their bodies, valuing cleanliness not just for health, but also for respect, spirituality, and social harmony. They made use of what nature offered: water, plants, steam, and simple techniques to stay clean and ready for the daily challenges of their time. These ancient habits remind us that sometimes the most essential things come from the simplest solutions and a deeper connection with the environment. The Viking story shows that hygiene is more than just a routine. It's culture, care, and identity. If you enjoyed learning about these customs, leave a comment and tell us what surprised you the most, or share a hygiene tradition you know. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.